Have you ever been strolling online, maybe on social media, and seen people talking about um, just doing the absolute basics at work?
Oh, yeah. Or maybe felt that way yourself sometimes.
Exactly. There's this term that's really like blown up recently, quiet quitting. It sounds kind of dramatic, doesn't it? Like everyone's secretly plotting to leave their jobs.
It does, yeah. But it's actually, it's something a bit different, and it's definitely got a lot of people talking, especially, in the English-speaking world.
Right. So this deep dive is all about that. We're going to try and unpack this whole idea of quiet quitting.
Yeah, you sent over some really interesting articles about it, and our goal here is to figure out, what's really behind it, where did this term even come from, and maybe what it says about how we feel about work nowadays.
Totally. It seems like it's more than just some fleeting internet buzzword.
Definitely more. These articles you share, they really show it sparked a big conversation.
So our mission, let's say, is twofold. First, to get a clear picture of this whole workplace thing.
Mm-hmm.
And second, for everyone listening, especially our global English learners, to maybe pick up some really useful vocabulary and ways to talk about work.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in. Quiet quitting. I mean, the name itself, like we said, it can throw you off a bit, right?
It totally can. You immediately think someone's, clearing out their desk on the sly.
Yeah, packing a box secretly.
But what it actually seems to mean is doing exactly what's in your job description. And that's it.
Right. No more, no less.
Like no volunteering for extra projects, no staying late, unless it's absolutely critical, and maybe being more careful about the emotional energy you put into work.
That's a really key point. It's fulfilling your obligations, the things you were actually hired to do, but not necessarily going above and beyond all the time.
So that clarification is important. It's not actually quitting.
Not in the sense of handing in your notice, no. It's more like a mental shift, maybe, a disengagement from the extra credit parts of the job.
The stuff outside your main duties.
Exactly. It's doing your job, but deciding consciously, okay, work isn't going to take over my entire life beyond these hours or these specific tasks.
And this term, it just exploded, didn't it? It felt like it came out of nowhere, suddenly everywhere online. TikTok, I think.
Yeah, it really gained traction on TikTok. It's fascinating how quickly it spread, especially in English-speaking places.
Why do you think it struck such a chord?
Well, it seems like it gave a name to a feeling or maybe an experience that lots of people were already having. This whole thing about work-life balance, burnout, mental
Yeah.
well-being.
Sort of crystallized it.
Exactly, it provided a label.
Let's break down the name itself. Quiet. That word has lots of meanings, right? A quiet room, a quiet person suggests something subtle,
Mm-hmm. Understated, not loud.
and then quit usually means stop, leave, like quitting smoking or quitting your job. So how do they work together here?
Well, that's a good point. The quiet part, I think, refers to the fact that it's an internal change. It's not a big announcement.
Right, not storming out.
No. And the quit part isn't about leaving the company. It's more like quitting the idea that you always have to do more than you're paid for, quitting the expectation of constant striving.
Ah, okay, so it's the opposite of that phrase, go the extra mile,
Exactly. Going the extra mile is all about putting in that additional effort. Quiet quitting is more aligned with doing maybe the bare minimum.
which sounds negative, but maybe it just means doing what's required.
Precisely, just fulfilling the contract. And often this whole thing is linked to burnout, right? That feeling of just being completely drained from working too hard for too long. That can definitely push people towards this mindset.
Now, the articles you share, they often point to younger generations, Gen Z, millennials. They seem more linked to this trend. Why might that be?
Well, there seems to be a real generational shift in priorities, doesn't there? There's often a much stronger emphasis on work-life balance.
Yeah, you hear that term constantly.
And for many younger people, success isn't just about climbing the corporate ladder or getting the biggest paycheck. Personal time, experiences, mental health, these things are really high priorities.
That fits with the whole work to live, not live to work idea.
Exactly. That seems to resonate much more strongly now. And alongside that, there's just so much more open talk about mental health.
Too.
So maybe younger generations feel more empowered to set boundaries to protect their well-being. Quiet quitting could be one way they do that.
You might hear people actually say things like,
I'm mentally checked out. That
yeah,
really captures that feeling of disengagement.
or maybe I'm just coasting.
Yeah, doing enough to get by, but no extra push.
Mm.
And sometimes, sadly, you hear things like, this job is soul-sucking, which points to a much deeper problem, obviously, that could lead someone to just pull back.
Which brings us to the employer side of things. This whole trend, it must raise questions about company culture, right?
Oh, absolutely. It really puts a spotlight on the dynamic between employers and employees. Are companies, maybe without meaning to, creating environments where people feel they need to disengage like this?
Yeah, like, are they expecting too much? Taking advantage of people who do go the extra mile.
That's a key question. Is that extra mile just becoming the expected baseline, but without the extra recognition or reward to match?
And then how do managers see employees who are, you know, just doing their job, meeting expectations, but not constantly volunteering for more?
hmm Is there a risk they get labeled as, I don't know, not ambitious or not a team player?
That seems like a potential clash point.
Definitely. And this ties into hustle culture, that pressure cooker environment where you're always supposed to be on, always achieving more. Quiet quitting is kind of a pushback against that.
And what about emotional labor? That fits in
Yeah,
here too, doesn't it?
it really does. That effort of managing your emotions at work, putting on a brave face, dealing with difficult interactions, it's draining, and it's often completely invisible and unacknowledged.
And then there's that other term that sometimes comes up, quiet firing.
Yeah, that's like the flip side. The idea that some employers might subtly withdraw support or opportunities from an employee they'd rather leave, hoping they'll just quit on their own. It's a really interesting and kind of concerning parallel.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. For our listeners learning English, this topic is actually super useful, isn't it?
Incredibly useful. First off, the term quiet quitting itself is everywhere in discussions about work right now, so understanding it is key to keeping up.
Right, you'll hear it in the news, online.
Exactly. And all the related vocabulary we've touched on, go the extra mile, bare minimum, burnout, work-life balance, hustle culture, these are all really practical terms for anyone in or entering the professional world.
And it's not just about knowing the words, right? It's about being able to use them, like in conversations, maybe even in writing.
Precisely. Understanding these concepts helps you talk about your own experiences, your expectations, maybe even negotiate your workload or boundaries. Think about job interviews, networking, even just chatting with colleagues.
So being able to express those boundaries clearly in English is a really valuable skill.
Absolutely vital for a sustainable career, I'd say. Knowing how to say things politely but firmly, like, I appreciate the opportunity, but I need to focus on my current priorities right now.
Or maybe, I'm happy to help with that once I've completed my main tasks.
Exactly. Those kinds of phrases are practical tools for managing workload and expectations professionally.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've dived into quiet quitting.
Yeah.
It's essentially doing your job as defined, not necessarily more.
Right. Often driven by a desire for better work-life balance, protecting mental health.
Particularly, it seems, among younger generations, though probably not exclusively.
No, likely not exclusively at all. And it definitely highlights this ongoing, maybe shifting relationship and set of expectations between employees and employers.
And for our listeners, understanding this trend is great for understanding current workplace conversations and boosting that relevant English vocabulary.
Equipping you with language and insights for your own career path.
So here's something to maybe think about after this. As ideas about work-life balance and well-being keep changing, how do you see this reshaping workplaces? What does being productive even mean anymore?
That's a great question to ponder. We really encourage everyone listening to think about their own experiences. Have you seen or felt this? Maybe chat about it with friends or colleagues. Practice your English.
Yeah, try using some of the vocabulary we talked about.
We hope this deep dive gave you a clearer picture of quiet quitting and why it's such a hot topic right now.